Let's start with a real story. In one of the top multinational companies, there is this middle-aged regional manager, sharp, impressive, and apparently unstoppable. His numbers are unbeatable, profits are through the roof, and the higher-ups practically worship it. On paper, he is the company's golden child. But if you step into his office, you will feel one thing: the silence that smells like fear. Nobody argues, nobody experiments, nobody jokes around. Innovation dies quietly, resignation letters pile up, and yet the top board keeps calling him efficient. Dig a little deeper and you shall find the truth. This guy demands absolute obedience, no questions, no alternatives. He publicly shames anyone who deviates from his rules. Privately, he even keeps tabs on who is talking to whom after work. His obsession with uniformity, he calls it professionalism, but it's really nothing else than total control. Later, a psychological evaluation revealed that behind this image of control was a terrified man, someone who had faced humiliation and rejection earlier in his life. His anxiety was wrapped in authority. That fear of losing control had become an addiction to controlling others. And here is where it gets wild. Psychologists have found that people who grow up powerless often flip the switch later. Domination becomes their therapy. And every order they give silences their old insecurities. Every act of control calms their fear of chaos. It's a loop. The power they get, the more insecure they feel. So they crave even more control. You see, it's everywhere. When institutions start valuing results over processes, they accidentally breed these micro dictators. Corporations reward obedience because it looks efficient. If the graphs are green, nobody asks who they got this from and how they got here. So the bully becomes the role model. The workplace begins to look like a dictatorship wrapped in performance charts. And what about employees? All they have to do is to adapt. They stop questioning. Their creativity fades. Their confidence erodes. It's what psychologists call learned helplessness. When you have been told no so many times that you stop trying altogether. Silence becomes safety. Survival depends on submission. This is how dictatorship sneaks in without flags or slogans. It comes in through HR policies and management workshops. The language changes. No one says control. They say efficiency. No one says obedience. They say discipline. But the mechanics are the same. One mind rules, the rest have to comply. Interestingly, neuroscientists have found that authoritarian minds actually process uncertainty as danger. The prefrontal cortex, the part that handles contradictions, goes into the overdrive when they face disagreement. So to reduce that discomfort, they crush a position in their heads. There's only one truth, theirs. That's not ideology, that's biology. That's why every dictator, whether in politics or the office, behaves the same. They don't choose to be controlling. Their brands demand simplicity, certainty, and order, even if that order kills freedom. Now let's zoom out. That manager, he didn't learn control in the office. He learned it at home. The family is the first school of obedience. In homes where love is conditional, where kids have to earn affection by pleasing authority, a psychological blueprint is born. Kids learn that to belong they must submit. Later in life, they just replay the same pattern. Only the roles change. The father's authority becomes the manager's policy, the teacher's grading system, or the preacher's sermon. Studies show that people raised under strict or emotionally distant parents tend to grow up more comfortable in hierarchies. They don't crave freedom, they crave structure, even if it's oppressive. The dictatorship they once feared becomes familiar. And our schools, they extend the same pattern. In classrooms, they punish curiosity and reward obedience. Kids are trained to listen, not to think. And by the time they reach adulthood, they behave and believe truth comes from above. So when they join a company or a nation led by a strong, decisive figure, it feels natural. Neuroscientists even say that chronic exposure to controlling environments rewires the brain's fear circuits. The amygdala starts to treat disagreement like a threat. That's why some people defend their oppressors. Their brains literally mistake authority for protection. So control becomes cultural. When fear is disguised as respect and obedience is labeled as virtue, entire societies start normalizing dictatorships without realizing it. Now imagine that same psychological wiring entering politics. A man raised in rigid hierarchies, strict home, strict school, and strict job, suddenly gets elected. People admire him for being strong, decisive, and no nonsense. But behind that charm, the same emotional code runs: fear of losing control. He builds a government that mirrors a toxic office. Tyson becomes disloyalty. Questioning becomes treason. Everyone around him adapts the way his employees once did, and it turns into dynastic politics. Political scientists call this transference. When micro-level control patterns become macro-level governance styles, what looks like a strategy is often the psychological habit. And if that person has a military background, it intensifies, or say it doubles. The army's strict hierarchies reinforce obedience, discipline, and absolute control. Those trained to command don't easily learn to collaborate. When they enter politics, the chain of command replaces democracy. Media then becomes the propaganda arm, not through censorship, but through storytelling. Repetition, framing, selective truth, that's how they shape minds. Studies prove that when people hear the same message repeatedly, they stop analyzing it, they stop ingraining it and incorporating it in their minds. And performance is their favorite disguise. As long as the economy grows or the city looks cleaner, people ignore the shrinking space for freedom. The same logic from the corporate world applies. If it's working, it must be right. And here is the scariest part: fear spreads faster than reason. When a leader radiates fear, pride, or anger, the entire population catches it emotionally. Obedience becomes wild. That's why crowds cheer their own cages.